Hey, welcome back. It's Monday. We are starting a trial week in Orion, Georgetown. This week we'll see what catches. One of the cases that I'll discuss was first up for this week. And so with that one, I would suggest there's going to be probably a lot of guilty pleas this week. But last week was successful. We had Stephen Wayne, 41, of Horry County, pled guilty to third-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor, and he received the maximum, which was 15 years. Now, here is where it kind of gets a little bit confusing. There are two statutes that run almost directly beside each other. And it is, when we say criminal sexual conduct, that's really what we would normally refer to as rape. One set is criminal sexual conduct, first, second, and third. That it may as well just change it to rape, first, second, and third. Rape first is where you use a knife or a gun or something like that, and that's got the maximum penalty. Rape second is aggravated coercion. And it really, rape second and rape third is generally when it's a person who is either too drunk to consent, or it's a person with mental problems that couldn't consent. But rape third really deals more with the victim's inability to consent. So that's 1, 2, and 3 under the rape. This other category that I was telling you about looks almost structured along the same lines, but this is what we would call statutory rape. In other words, this all deals with the victim. In statutory rape, the worst one is CSC, or rape first with a minor. And that deals with an age of under 11. So you get that's the highest penalty, statutory rape under 11. Now, if the victim is 11 but less than 14, that's statutory rape second degree. And statutory rape third degree is that victim is 14 years old but less than 16. So what he pled to here was statutory rape third degree. It's based on how old the victim was. It's not saying that, this is a good guy. That has nothing to do with all of that. It deals with the victim's age. That's statutory rape. Of course, he's 41. That was a lot worse. A lot of times you'll see where the defendant is 21 or something like that, and they would probably receive something less than the maximum. But because his age was double the victim's, he got the maximum sentence of 15 years. And that is dealing a lot with the victim's age, just how that goes down. But it's a whole different statute than first, second, and third over here. This deals with more with the defendant and what he did or didn't do until you get down to CSC rape third. But this is with a minor, and that's statutory rape. So Stephen Wayne, 41, of Horry County, pled guilty to third degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor, rape, statutory rape with a minor, and he got 15 years on that charge. The other case that I was a lot more involved with should have started this morning. And this was a young man. His name was Cody Parrott. He was 21 at the time of the shooting, the killing. He was 23 at the time that he pled guilty to it. The entire time, Cody Parrott, this was his girlfriend, and her name was Brooke Atkins. And it was a very difficult case in that the two of these guys are dating. They are the only ones in this hotel room in Loris. And sometime after numerous phone calls from Brooks to different friends of hers and to her stepmom, she ends up being shot in the head. And immediately, Cody Parrott says she committed suicide. We were getting ready to break up. She did this to herself. So we went and got an expert we had several experts, but we got an expert from Oklahoma that did a wonderful recreation where they actually took the bullet from the wall and created a virtual rod that came out of the wall at an angle, and then moved the victim's head onto that virtual rod to create how it had to have happened, where it would be from low to high shot through the head like this, and to go on that rod, which created what looked like being pushed down. That expert from Oklahoma did a fantastic job of putting that together, and clearly when that happens, then it is almost impossible for you to make this arm angle and to pull a trigger, especially with your non-dominant hand. Brooks was right-handed. He was saying that she used her non-dominant hand, her left hand, to create, and just try that at your convenience, how terrible that would have to be able to bend your head over and do that. And we had a blood spatter expert from Tennessee, and she would tell, when there's only two people, the evidence has to do the talking. So we had planned on that to start today. There was no doubt that there was an argument between Brooke and Cody Parrott, an argument that may have had to do with Parrott being intoxicated. But anyway, it was an argument nonetheless over a friend of Brooks from the past. And the only thing we have is Brooke and how her body is placed and how the blood is disturbed and where the gun was and DNA and things like that to be able to try this case. So he came in and pled guilty. He had no prior record. I think the judge took that into consideration. He had, this young lady was wonderful, just a very gentle soul, really loved animals and family and all the things that we would raise a child to be. She just got hung up with Cody Parrott, who was very fascinated and fixated upon guns. So guns and alcohol do not mix. This John Wayne type mentality that he may have worked himself into certainly didn't help him any. But I will tell you this, the family was very pleased with the outcome and the fact that they didn't have to go to trial. And we were very ready to go to trial. We had spent a good bit of money and were prepared and had met with each each defendant multiple times. So we were ready to go. But it's very hard for people to bite off that much time. And until they get to right at the edge of the cliff, it's very hard to encourage pleas before you do all of that stuff. That case was a year and a half old, and we had to get to the week before, starting on Monday, for him to come in and plead guilty. But he got 26 years on voluntary manslaughter. He will have to serve somewhere around 24 of them before he comes up for parole. I think it was over 23, but less than 24, where he will have to serve. So he will be, it's for the family. We would have wanted to have gotten the 30 years, but certainly The prosecutor argues for what they want, the defense argues for what they want, and the judge comes in and he ultimately makes that decision. And there's things to think about from both sides of it. But the family was happy with the outcome, and almost with, you can't say anything 100%, but with a great certainty, this is not going to come back on appeal. The family won't have to worry. Just like, there's a guy that I prosecuted over 20 years ago, and about every 3 months I'm back in court. That's the part we never talk about, but I'm back in court trying to keep that sentence upheld, whether it be through the appeals, motion for a new trial, post-conviction relief. It's just constantly, and the defendant knows he's writing them pro se, he's writing them by himself. He knows he's not going to win, but he gets to take a ride from Columbia or Lee in a bus and gets to see the sun, and it's better than being imprisoned for that day. So the system is what it is, and I'm never going to sit up here and tell you that it is the best system, but I get paid to do it, and the victim's family don't. So I'm glad for them. I hate it because this truly was a wonderful young lady that was trying to, she just got out of school. She was 19. She wanted to be a teacher. She had the heart of a little angel. She was a beautiful girl. And all of that, a parent's worst nightmare, was snuffed out because Cody Parrott got to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof with alcohol and wanting to handle a gun. So it was a tough case, but it got over. Last week we had a huge trial roster. Basically everything on there pled guilty. The one case that didn't plead guilty that we ended up trying was a DUI, a regular DUI, except that it was a second offense. We tried that. The jury hung. It will end as a mistrial, but it doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong. It means that the jury could not come to a conclusion. So that case is still pending. At some point in the future, it'll have to be retried, or it'll have to plea, or something will happen. But we did try a DUI second last week, and it took about it took longer to pick the jury than it did to put it up. Then the jury deliberated the rest of the day and into the next day before they finally hung, which means 12 people couldn't agree that he was guilty, or 12 people couldn't agree that he was not guilty. So when it's not unanimous, then after a while the judge just sends them home and says we'll start over again at another term with a different jury, so that case is still pending. But the first up case pled, second pled, third pled, fourth case on the roster we tried. All of those that are in orange shows the guilt. The yellow one shows that we had to try it. Went on into the next case, which we ended up dismissing the number 6. 7 was a plea, and it goes on and on and on. The judge continued a few of them down the roster at the defense request, but for the most part, it was a successful week in that a bunch of stuff pled guilty or went to trial. And that is one of the benefits when that first case that you had planned to catch and take the whole week, we just put a smile on it, but we want that case to catch. But just like this week, first up was Cody Parrott. He ends up pleading guilty, and there's not a lot you can do to keep him from doing that. So we'll update you again next week. If you've got anything that you want discussed, please put it in the comments and we'll try to discuss it.